Ndinoda kuti nyika isiwe vanhu vangu inguva yedu hatingatadzi kubudirira Mwari ari parutivi pedu rambai muchirwa My hitters gon' die, don't die and real hitters gon' shine and my people gon' rise Cause we're born to it, yeah I ain't saying but I'm saying
Loyalty's my favorite characteristic of God, but finding it in it is hard. It's like trying to find God. You're the only one in your camp with cheese. You pay for everything they eat. Man, that insecurity is deep. Now I ain't said no names. These are just theories. If you hear me, baby, it's home. You must admit it's kind of eerie, baby. Like them chemtrails in the sky. Hate the selling the slaves, kind of like the combines. We say everything in moderation, but don't do it in moderation. The lies of a gluttonous generation. 10-year-old girl in.
Hey everybody, this is Deaunte and you are here with The Day with Trae. I'm Deaunte Damper, stepping in with Trae for Trae all this week. We have a great show for y'all. We have LC from Queer the Land. We're going to talk about some of the amazing events that they have coming up and how we community can support. But first, I have to talk to my brother. We got to step into the news just a tad bit, okay? But hold on, before we step into the news, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Converge Media. We have amazing shows here on this platform. And one of those people here is Brian Callanan, right? How you doing, brother? Can you give us some of the news today?
Yep, sure can. Deaunte, great to be with you. We're talking about Seattle News, Views, and Brews, which is on Converge tonight at 7 o'clock. And we got a lot of stuff to cover, I should say. I'm breaking down what's going on with the mayor's budget proposal with my co-host, David Croman. And specifically, we looked at a couple of things here. One of them was what the mayor is talking about when it comes to human service providers, right? And the pay that they get. And this one was really interesting because back when Mayor Harrell was the president of the Seattle City Council back in 2019, he was actually the sponsor of an amendment to an ordinance that said, okay, we are going to tie this rate that human service providers get paid to inflation, and we need to pay them more. And he said we need to do this in times when we're flushed and in times of economic hardship. So fast forward to 3 years later, here he is as mayor, and he's actually proposed something different in his budget. And he's talking about having something that would give a raise to these workers, but still cap it at 4%, which when you think about inflation up at about 8% right now, it's a little bit of a challenge. And this all leads back to what the King County Regional Homelessness Authority was asking Seattle to do. They said, hey, we need $90,000 to make sure we're paying people properly and getting these services out there. Seattle came back, and Seattle's dealing with a number of budget issues, as you know, $141 million hole in the budget right now. Seattle came back with a $10 million figure. So the mayor is trying to do some balancing here, and it's really challenging. This was something that was pointed out first in Public Cola, this disparity between 2019 and this year, but it's something that's going to be really challenging for the city council to deal with as they work through their budget process, which they'll be doing over the next several weeks and into November. We should have something by the end of November, right around Thanksgiving time. So I just wanted to make sure I brought that up. And Deaunte, I know a lot of different issues about homelessness and whatever else are all around Converge, and people talk about it a lot. But when I talk about that with you, I don't know what your reaction is to that. But when we talk about the mayor and what human service workers are getting paid, I mean, this is a big deal. And I just wanted to get your reaction to it, too.
Well, I think that when we talk about that, there are so many different intersections. It's like, oh, yes, well, we're going to house them. I think it's more so of just a get off the streets type of mind frame that's coming down from the mayor's office. But there's so many things that we can be doing to actually assist our community members. And that is paying people with the lived experience, and people with lived experience. And I said this yesterday on a call. When we talk about people that are working in these areas with lived experience, they have survived the pandemic. They have survived the war on drugs. They have survived racial injustice in their community and deserve a merit badge, a medal of honor for their work that they are out there doing. That means pay the fee. That means pay them more. Those are my thoughts on it and more, right?
Yeah. No, thank you for bringing that up. And that's a very important piece of what's going on here. And again, the council is going to be looking at those issues and exactly those points that you're raising over the next couple of weeks here. But I did dive into another part of the budget that I thought was very interesting. And it's certainly something that Converge listeners and viewers have been checking out for a long time. And that's what's going on with our Seattle Police Department. So you might remember last year, the city council said, all right, We're going to try to figure out different ways to kind of dismantle this big Seattle Police Department machine. It's a big, big operation. How can we peel off some different parts of it so we can shrink the size of this department, try to right size it, as the council members say? So what they did was a little bit of low-hanging fruit here. It wasn't too difficult to do. At least the council thought it wasn't too difficult to do. They took the parking enforcement officers and they said, okay, we're going to peel that piece off here. They put them into the Seattle Department of Transportation. At least that's what they tried to do last year. Unfortunately, that process didn't work. You might remember from earlier this year, my co-host David Croman actually wrote about this in the Seattle Times. The authority that those parking enforcement officers needed to go with them from the SPD into SDOT, it actually didn't happen. So the city ended up having to refund hundreds of thousands of parking tickets. I wish I got a parking ticket back when that was happening, but that wasn't what was going on. But at any rate, so that didn't work out with SDOT. So what the mayor is proposing this time around is saying, okay, we're going to move those officers who are still actually working in an SPD building back into the Seattle Police Department. He says it's going to save about $5 million, which is a big deal, again, when you're talking about a budget deficit here. But I think the larger issue here, and the one that's really interesting, is after all of this momentum to try to make some changes to the police department, to try to shrink it in some ways that wouldn't sacrifice public safety, hopefully, but would also make this into something as right-sized, as the council would put it. This parking enforcement officer experiment has unfortunately failed. Now, the mayor did say he would leave the door open to potentially moving this group into another department of the city, like the communication center, which is what the public safety chair, Lisa Herbold, was trying to do the whole time with this. Is that going to happen? I'm not sure if it's going to be in the immediate future, but Deaunte, this is another one of those things where we talk about police, we talk about the size of the police department. We definitely need some more officers, but this move with the parking enforcement officers, shoot, they're going to be adding a lot more people back to the police department. And there's definitely some images there that I think people might be concerned about it, or I guess just the visibility of this and just adding to the police department. I know people want more officers out on the streets, but the mayor's talking about adding these parking enforcement officers, which is a bit of a nuanced thing, but still, we're talking about growing the SPD. And I know that raises concerns with some people too.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that, what the mayor, I can honestly say over the past couple of weeks, the mayor has been making some really great announcements with advocating for community, right? So with that being said, and he's also done a great job with delegating and smoothing things out with some of the questions that we've had towards behavioral health, as well as community advocacy. So I think that he will, and I hope, especially with the regime that he has here, to actually bring this conversation back to the forefront. We've had I think that when we talk about our defunding police and all of that, it's kind of been really quiet. But I think that the mayor and his office will actually be would be coming and having a conversation with it, as they have with all the other things that they've been rolling out the turnpike.
Yeah. No, they've been listening for sure. And now we actually have an interim chief in Adrian Diaz, who's the permanent chief. So I know that conversation is going to keep on going when it comes to right-sizing the police department as the council says it. But I think we're going to have to pay close attention over the next several weeks here. I'll bring up one last piece that we were covering on the show, Deaunte, and that's a story that my co-host David Croman did in the Seattle Times about the inaccessibility to sidewalks for people who are disabled. It's actually a huge problem all around the state. David did a study of 30 different municipalities or counties or whatever else all around the state, found that in all of those cases, not even half of the sidewalks in those different cities, counties, etc., were up to code when it comes to the Americans with Disabilities Act. And it's a big, big deal. The only problem is actually trying to solve this problem is something that is in the hundreds and millions and sometimes billions of dollars. So it's a good story, a little bit of a frustrating story too, but I definitely urge people to check it out because it kind of shows a different side that you might not be thinking about all the time. The sidewalk isn't too bad for me, but imagine if you were in a wheelchair. I mean, that's what the ADA is all about, making sure there's equal access to everybody here. So it's an interesting story put out. I urge people to check out, and I also urge people to check out Seattle News, Views, and Brews, 7 o'clock tonight on Converge, and that's what I got for you.
My Wednesday brother, I appreciate you. I do have to ask you a question though. Okay,
please.
So you out there, you haven't talked about it here on the show, but you are out there in West Seattle. How are you making it through that? Now that
I'm getting through. It's a lot better, Deaunte. I'm on the south side of it, a little bit closer to White Center, and so I've been able to use that First Avenue South Bridge for a long time. And I intend to keep on using it because now all those people who came from the north side of the peninsula, guess what? They're staying on the bridge, and I can use my little secret back route all I want. So it's a little less crowded on my route. I'm glad to see the West Seattle Bridge doing better too. So thank you for asking, Deaunte. It's been a crazy last 2+ years.
Brother, and I can't wait to see you tonight at 7, Seattle News and Brews. Thank you, Brian.
All right, cool. Thanks, Deaunte. See ya.
Seattle News and Brews, y'all, tonight at 7 o'clock, okay? Now, thank Brian and David. Can't wait to see them tonight. But up next, we got my girl LC here. You are watching The Day with Trae.
Basically, fam, believe in giving. Like, we have to be willing to give more, and people seem to always think giving means money, but nah, bro. It's like you can give time, you can give understanding, you can give access, you can give a listening ear and an open heart. You can give and share your God-given gifts and talents, but you just got to give.
Community, it's been 3 years since we've been able to celebrate in person at our annual Evening of Choice. And this year at Access in Pioneer Square on October 19th at 6 p.m., we will be back together again, celebrating our journey, healing towards justice. This past couple of years have been incredibly difficult for our young people and our community at large. And one thing that has become clear and absolutely true is there's one way forward that brings all of us together, and that's as we heal. And when our young people heal, they're truly able to become who it is they've been purposed to be. So on this evening, you'll hear stories of our young people, hear the evolution of our organization as we emphasize healing in our cause. And together we will celebrate another year of impact and growth as we journey towards justice together. Again, it's at Access in Pioneer Square, 6 p.m. on October 19th, and live streaming will be available through YouTube at I Choose 180.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Day with Trae. My next guest needs no introduction because people from our community members that work at Queer the Land have been a part of Converge family, and I'm just so happy to invite family here today. What's up, Sia? How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for inviting me.
She got all quiet. We was over here talking and being loud and talking about the Beyonce album earlier. This is home, girl. You can chill.
Okay, this is an adjustment. I'm like, oh, I got to come in the studio. Okay.
Yes. So for people that aren't familiar, can you let people know, get more familiar with Queer the Land?
Yeah. So Queer the Land is a collective of queer and trans Black, Indigenous people of color working to own our own land and our own labor in the Seattle area and to make an impact on gentrification and housing in Seattle.
Okay. And that's amazing. And because one, it's important. And I think that when we talk about the diaspora Black, when we talk about property and ownership, right? I think those are conversations that a lot of queer people are left out of, right?
Yeah.
Maybe for the grant, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no, how about the whole pie, right? Mm-hmm. So can you tell us some of the things that y'all have done over the years, accomplishments in those areas?
Yeah, so I would say one of our biggest accomplishments has been purchasing a home for our community in Beacon Hill. So we purchased a home in 2021 off of like the heels of Black Lives Matter movement and the pandemic and all the protests, civil rights protests that were happening in 2020. We were able to acquire land, and we've been able to utilize the space recently to harvest or to plant food and to harvest food during our community gardening days. So we've been providing a lot of food, also a lot of non-perishable items for folks. So we have a pantry and an apothecary, so for herbs and things like that, healing agents for the community that are all free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, so y'all are out there doing the work. And I was talking to you about that a lot, but can we step into you for a second? How did you get started in this work?
Yeah, I mean, I have a bachelor's of social work, so I've always been doing work in the community, work advocacy, pretty much in the health field, primarily reproductive justice. But this really has been an aligned kind of transition. It's all connected. We can't have good health in our community without having stable housing, community, and good nutritious food. So this has just been a natural a natural transition for me. But my two of my best friends, Ime and Nisha, Togel
Shout
and
out, Anisha.
Kiza. Yeah. Shout out to them. They're one of the co-founders of Queer the Land. And they were here for 4 or 5 years. They had to move back to Atlanta because of the rising housing costs. But they were a part of starting this idea and this collective. And so they brought me into the fold and mentored me. And that's how I've been a part of Queer the Land.
Shout out to those best friends, right?
Yes.
That help you find your why, right?
Yes.
You were talking a little bit about reproductive justice. Why I know why, but why is that important for community members, especially Black and Brown, for not just for Black and Brown folks, but Black and Brown queer and women and those who identify as?
Yeah, reproductive justice is important because, well, if you know the history of reproductive health in this country, you know that it was created off of the backs, the labor, the suffering of Black femmes, Black women that we presume were identified as women. In this country, in gynecology, and so enslaved women. And so it's really important for us because it's an opportunity to reclaim our bodies. For queer people, is an opportunity for us to define our bodies, define our identity, but also to have access to healthcare, access to resources to take care of our bodies, for them to look and function in the way that feels best for us, but also so then we have support for when we might want to birth a child or give the child away to community. We want to have an array of resources and opportunities and options and choices. And really the civil rights movement is about access to resources and choices, right? And not having other people stunt that or trying to take that away from us.
And that's real. And I think that, and one of the things that I've noticed too is that we're not really having that conversation. We're talking to like some of the politicians about it, and we're outreaching to our communities with it, right? But what about our youth? Do you guys have any youth programs?
We don't have any youth programs right now, but we hope to get more involved with the youth and bring them in and mentor. We definitely want to be able to, because Queer Land has also been about owning our labor, right? So like training one another, teaching one another as adults. And so that is a natural transition to move to working with kids and teens who are queer identified, who need a place to go and understand themselves, right? And see an older version of themselves, sees what might be possible for them.
Right, absolutely.
Mhm.
And let alone you guys are being being on Beacon Hill, right?
Yeah.
And I know that there was a lot of funding that came out of
Mhm.
of the injustices that were happening throughout 2020, and just to know that y'all have that space there. What was that like through that groundbreaking ceremony and opening up that space?
We have not had a groundbreaking ceremony yet. We're still looking for contractors who are like aligned with our values and will respect us as Black femmes. My colleague who does the day-to-day work, Ivana Inambulele, who will respect two Black femmes, right, leading this work, and who will work with us and teach us things. So we're still looking for that good dynamic.
Is it hard to find that dynamic? And
Yes.
and this is a safe space, right?
Yes.
Because I think it's really important why people are here to know exactly what we need.
Mhm.
Sometimes people don't understand that, right?
Yeah, it is a difficult dynamic. I think anyone who's worked with a contractor, any kind of renovation, knows that there's not necessarily a set standard for ethics like maybe there's for a lawyer or a doctor, and even in those fields you can't ensure that. But it has been difficult, but I have faith that we'll be able to find someone who's really in alignment with our work, but who also wants to contribute to this community and wants to build a relationship, not just make money or do a project.
I know that's right. It's because it's important, especially while we're coming out of where we've been, right?
Mhm.
I don't know, but raise your hand if you're the same person after the pandemic. I am not.
No.
You know what I mean? We
No.
all go through those changes, and I think that safety is really important, especially for our people with lived experience and our people that are out there doing the advocacy work, because we haven't had that time to feel safe, right?
Mhm.
It always just feels like we're on ice, but being protected, let alone someone who's helping build something
Yes.
that's going to be there for our community members is so important. So that
Yeah.
safety part is so important for y'all,
Mhm.
for us, sorry. So
Yeah.
I do want to ask you some more questions because I need to know what Queer the Land, what events y'all got coming up, because I know
Yeah.
y'all got a whole bunch. So we're
We
going to
do.
ask LC some more about that when we come back. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Community, it's been 3 years since we've been able to celebrate in person at our annual Evening of Choice. And this year at Access in Pioneer Square on October 19th at 6 p.m., we will be back together again, celebrating our journey, healing towards justice. This past couple of years have been incredibly difficult for our young people and our community at large. And one thing that has become clear and absolutely true is there's one way forward that brings all of us together, and that's as we heal. And when our young people heal, they're truly able to become who it is they've been purposed to be. So on this evening, you'll hear stories of our young people, hear the evolution of our organization as we emphasize healing in our cause. And together we will celebrate another year of impact and growth as we journey towards justice together. Again, it's at Access in Pioneer Square, 6 p.m. on October 19th, and live streaming will be available through YouTube at I Choose 180.
And we're back with The Day with Trae. I'm here with my girl LC from Queer the Land. Now, y'all have some events that are coming up.
Yeah.
So let us know how we can support.
Yeah, so we have a few things coming up. So we always have a gardening day. We've been doing gardening days since the spring. But the next one is actually this Saturday, the 8th. And it's usually 10 to 2 p.m. at the Queer the Land House. If you're interested in participating in any of these events, you can always email us at info@queertheland.org to get our address. We don't just publicize it, but yeah, and so during gardening days, we do all the gardening things. We weed, we harvest. We have so much food. We have so much greens. We're also growing pumpkins and hope to do some kind of fall pumpkin harvest as well. So be on the lookout for that. But we always post on social media. The next event, can I just keep going with the events?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. We need them.
Another event that we're doing is Queer the Land house cleaning day.
Okay.
Because although our house is not ready for folks to live in, we're still using some of the space for events. So we're just having, a good cleanup day to prepare for fall. For our fall programming, and that's going to be October 22nd from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then some of the more fun events, we're having a bass training.
Okay.
And really, this is kind of an intro to bass. It's our signature program.
What is BASE?
So BASE is building autonomy and safety for everybody.
Okay.
And it was part of, so Queer the Land was created with two collectives, and one of the collectives is a Filipino advocacy collective, and they worked with some outside community members to create a program that's about self-defense. It's about community safety, community protection, and how can we create a community that is safe within and also protected from entities without, right? And how can we eliminate policing in our communities and really protect ourselves and protect one another. So it's usually a very long program, but this is kind of like a tester. For a long time, we've just done kind of like boxing conditioning, which is a part of it, but it's not all of it. There's a lot of curriculum and community building and strategizing. And so that's going to happen October 12th.
Okay.
October 29th, I'm
Yeah.
trying to think, and November 12th, I believe. But you can go on our Instagram at Queer the Land to see those dates. And so, yeah, so this is a tester because we're trying to train more people in the community to also generate income for folks who might need some kind of floating income to be able to teach this class regularly for our community members and also our allied community supporters as well. And then the last event that we're doing is a digital collage series. It's called Show Me Home, and we're collaborating with the Pride Foundation, and also a local queer Chamorro artist named Lourdes Velasco.
I love me some Lourdes.
Yeah,
shout out to Lourdes. Lourdes was a first guest on We Live in Color.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, shout out to
Lourdes.
Lourdes, Maddie. Oh Lord, why the name's escaping me, but everybody from Taking Black Pride walks in.
Ivana, yes,
so appreciate them.
And so, yeah, they're going to be walking us through a 6-week collage series, a program about how to actually do like the technicals of creating digital and analog collages, but with the theme of defining home, remembering ancestors, which is really all about what Queer the Land stands for, right, is reclaiming our stories and our narratives and our history. So that starts, the first one is October 27th, which is a Thursday. It's a sliding scale. It's open to queer and trans people of color, with an emphasis on trans women participating in that opportunity. And so, yeah, you can reach out to us to get registered, again, at info@queertheland.org, or you can DM us on Instagram at Queer the Land.
Yes, that is amazing. Now, okay, and I wanted to also ask, what was I going to say? What makes you so passionate about this work? What is your why?
Yeah, my why is always community. I'm not a Seattle native. I have only been here 6 or 7 years, and so Queer the Land was kind of like a central part of how I was able to establish myself and establish my community. And I've never gone without. Like, I live a very abundant life, and that is, in good part because of my community and the ways that we show up for one another. And so that is my biggest why. Also, I feel like in nonprofit work or any kind of like social advocacy work, it becomes very serious. It becomes very like, we must reach these stats. We must, reach out to these communities because of some kind of alternative motive. But Queer the Land is really about building community. It's about the serious things, but it's also about having fun. It's about turning up. It's about crying with one another. It's about learning from one another. And so it's a really holistic space, and it really just keeps me engaged and keeps me motivated. And it's helped me in a multitude of ways.
Well, I thank you for helping us, for continuing to advocate for our community members that are out there. Y'all have a plethora of events. I can't wait to share them, and community members should as well. Can you please look into the camera and just give people the next event and how we can support?
Yeah, so the next event, the earliest one, is this Saturday. It's our gardening day. And you can just come on by. We really love volunteers, but we always have food. We have coffee, teas, and things like that. So just come out, build community, and learn about the other events that we're having. We're also going to be having some more collaborations with some Black-owned businesses later on in the winter time, hip hop and R&B karaoke. So if you're looking for something, you're looking like for something like that, then just make sure you stay on our page. Everything will be posted on our Instagram page and also our Facebook page. So volunteer, participate, donate. We also have a link to donate, right? We like to offer our programs for low price and sliding scale and free if possible for the most marginalized in our community. So donations help fill that gap, helps us be able to provide funds for our facilitators, for the folks who run the day-to-day with Queer the Land, and also to provide scholarships for people. So those are ways you can be engaged and help support.
Well, thank you so much
Yay.
for coming in. I appreciate you. And anything that Black Media Matters can do to help uplift those voices, just let us know.
Yes.
We'd just love to have y'all here.
Appreciate
y'all.
Thank you. This is fun.
Now, I know y'all probably wondering, why am I dressed so dapper Danish today? Okay, that's because tonight with We Live in Color tonight at 8 o'clock, I will be interviewing the wonderful Trae King and Jasmine. We'll be talking about real estate and lending in our community. We need to start talking about buying Black and buying your own. So we'll be having a deep discussion and a deep dive about that tonight on We Live in Color. But please make sure you tune in an hour before for Seattle News and Brews, okay? And then we'll be back tomorrow. I want to thank you so much. Walk with love. Thank you for watching The Day with Trae. Have a good day, y'all.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.